Howdy, y'all. Today we've got a father-son battle report. I've got Axton here with me, and he's going to be trying out the new Gardus Soul Steel and Stormcast Eternals, and I'll be trying out the Celestial Stampede with Seraphon. So we got some big monsters coming on the table, but we've also got the monster hunting faction Astral Templars going up against them. So it's going to be a good matchup. We are going to play on Blood and Glory, which is a 2019 battle plan, but still valid for this GHB. And it's a little unique in that you don't win the game unless you hold 3 objectives after turn 3, or whoever just holds the most. Was it all 4?
Yeah.
Okay. Or whoever holds the most at the end of the game. So if you can capture all those objectives, you can win instantly, or it just comes down to who has them at the end of the game. So let's look at the list real quick. For Seraphon, I am, of course, taking Thunder Lizards because I want to take the Celestial Stampede. So in this battalion, if you haven't watched my breakdown of this battalion, go back and watch just maybe like a week ago the video that kind of breaks down this battalion and some of the fun stuff that it gets to do. But my general is a Stegodon on Skink Chief, and he's got Prime Warbeast. And because of this battalion, I do get to take Prime Warbeast on 2 different monsters, and so that is a big help here. I'm throwing Cloak of Feathers on that general, and of course he's got the Skystreak Bow. Cloak of Feathers is amazing. It lets you fly, gives you +4 to your move, and -1 to hit. Awesome artifact to put on a Stegodon. You can really get him to fly, literally, with that thing. So the other Stegodon with Skink Chief is my Star Warden. That is a named character in this battalion, but he also gets Prime Warbeast. And so now I've got 2 Stegodons with Prime Warbeast. What Prime Warbeast does is gives +1 to all the mount attacks, which is awesome on a Stegodon because it's got a couple different profiles. It's got 3 different profiles, and it hits pretty hard. Engine of the Gods is in the Celestial Stampede Battalion, and I'm giving him the Sacred Stegodon Helm. That gives him a +1 to the save. And so this Stegodon will be at a native 3-up save. Can go to 2-up save depending on what it's attacking. That's pretty nice. It's also in the battalion. Then I've got a Saurus Old Blood, and he's got the War Spear, and I'm giving him the Fusel of Conflagration, which is the artifact you have to take for Thunder Lizards. So I'm throwing that onto him. And I'm taking 3 units of Source Warriors for a total of 70 warriors. I've got my Bastildon, who's in the battalion as well, and I've got 2 battalions, Celestial Stampede and Sunclaw Temple Host. Celestial Stampede allows me to do some mortals in the shooting phase. If you line up all 3 of the monsters that are in this battalion within 24 inches of something, you do have to give up your Cosmic Engine for the Engine of Gods and your double firing for the Bastildon, but you can do some mortals. You get up to 3 D3 mortals, so it can be good. But in this list, I don't have any command point generation. So I know at some point I'm going to be low on command points, even though I'm starting with 2 in this list. And so I want to be able to have an option when I don't have those command points to double fire on my stuff. And so Sunclaw Temple Host gives all these Source Warriors rend on their jaws. I would have loved to have gotten an extra 100 points in this list to put a Carnosaur instead of this Source Old Blood on foot, but just couldn't figure out how to do it. I could have dropped 90 for some Warriors, and that still would have only got me 200 points. And I already had my 4 behemoths in this list. So I took him on foot, just see how he'd do, and gave him the Fusel Conflagration. And that comes out to exactly 2,000 points, starting with 2 command points and 119 wounds. Not too shabby. Axton's list. What sub-faction are you in here?
Astral Templar.
And what does it do?
It gives me +1 to hit against monsters.
And you like taking this one against me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
Because your army is mainly monsters.
Yeah, I do take a lot of monsters against you. So he has a monster hunting Stormcast army here. And we are taking Lord Celestant Gardus Steel Soul. He's the newest hero. He's just a named variant of the Lord Celestant, so we are just going to be using our Lord Celestant that we have. Anything special he does?
He gives a...
Was it a 5-up? Feel no pain?
Oh, yeah.
Against mortals?
Feel no pain against mortals.
He has some abilities that go for only Hallowed Knights, but we don't really like that sub-faction. especially since I wasn't going to be taking any magic. Hallowed Knights, they can ignore magic and spells and stuff, and so that would have been kind of pointless. But we wanted to play him, and so we're going to put him into Astral Templars, and I think this should be a fairly competitive list against my monster heavy army. Your general is Lord Arcanum on Griff Charger, and he's got some command traits and artifacts that you have to take with Astral Templars. What's a Stormcaller spell? Do you remember that one?
It is so if you cast it, it's so you would roll a dice in every 6.
For each unit on the board.
For each unit
yeah, you can do some mortals to every unit on the board. Unfortunately, I don't know that we ever cast that in this game, did we? He is taking the Everblaze Comet in this army, so we end up trying to use that spell cast either on the Comet or to dispel it. What's his mount trait? Ethereal Stalker. What does that do?
It gives him an extra dice to ride the winds.
Yeah, so he has a pretty good ability where you can roll 6 dice. With this mount trait, you can roll 7, and he can move that far. He can move 7d6 inches across the board, and that really helps you kind of like steal objectives and stuff, doesn't it? Yeah. Lord Ordinator, he's in just about every single one of your lists. Why is that?
Because I have ballistas.
Yeah,
he gives +1 to hit.
Yeah, he gives +1 to hit to all the ballistas. And then in Astral Templars, if he's shooting monsters, we're at +2 to hit. And so he can all of a sudden, those ballistas can be hitting hard. When they're in the rapid fire mode, I guess let's scroll down. We've got 4 ballistas in this army. When they're in the rapid fire mode, they're hitting on 5s normally, right? But if they're shooting a monster in Astral Templars with Lord Ordinator, they're hitting on 3s, and then those 3s explode into d6 hits. So it can put out a lot of damage. Sometimes, though, it does whiff, doesn't it? So sometimes if you don't get those explosions or it explodes into like 1 hit, it doesn't do very well. We've got a couple units of Sequitors, some Liberators, and some Fulminators. What do you like about the Fulminators?
That they have +1 to save and shooting.
Yeah. So what's their save?
3, I think.
Yeah, it's normally 3, and so in shooting they're getting a 2-up save. And they reroll 1s, right? And so these guys, these Fulminators, you don't see them a lot on the table these days, but against this shooting heavy meta, they're not too bad. They can be a chore to get through unless you've got mortals to deal to them. So, and of course the Everblaze Comet. You haven't been taking it all that often lately when I've had Croak, but in this list I don't have any magic to stop that Everblaze Comet when it comes down. So I've really got to think about that on deployment to make sure that Comet doesn't blow up my entire army. Which it tends to do sometimes. So those are our 2 lists, and we'll get to deployment. Oh, there's our Gardus Soul Steel, also the Lord Celestant that we've repurposed for this case. Basically the same model, just not as cool a pose. So here's deployment, and you have a lot of stuff off the board, right?
Yeah.
So we do have our units of Fulminators up here, his Sequitors, and Gardus Steel Soul is up there on that top right corner, and he's going to be buffing those Sequitors because he can give them +1 to their hits, and so they can be hitting on 2s, and you can either reroll the 1s or you can reroll their saves with their War Scroll ability. So that makes them pretty good. And then we've got some just units over here to capture objectives and things of that nature. So, my deployment, I've got a bunch of warriors over on the left side of this table. I'm trying to keep a lot of bodies over here. I do have my unit of 30 covering this right side objective. And I have my Bastiladon, my engine, and then I think the next picture may show where I ended up placing my other, this is the named general over here. And I spread them out this much just to try to keep the ballistas off of them. I knew I was going to let him go first turn 1. And so, I mean, you can tell I'm backed up all the way at the back of this board, and then I'm pushing these guys out as far as I can. He could basically hit one of them with a ballista, but not all the ballistas into him where I'm lined up. So I'm trying to keep him safe. I was maybe hoping that he would fall for this Bastiladon trap and try to deploy all his shooting into that. But he didn't fall for that. He's played against the Bastiladon a couple times, so he knows that 1-up save is really hard to get through. So I did give him turn 1. And he deploys all his ballistas here on the left. Why did you do that over there on that left side?
Because it doesn't have a lot of shooting.
Okay. My side on that side doesn't?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of warriors there who only have 1 wound.
Okay. Yeah, they only have 1 wound. Your ballista's doing 1 wound. There's a nice little gap here that you were kind of plugging to where I couldn't get to your objective that's back in here. And so you were kind of actually staying away from most of my monsters on that right side. But he was going to just shoot up all these bodies here. The comet did go down. It popped off. Did a couple mortals to basically everything in this bubble here. It's got a 10-inch AoE bubble that it does. And so it did some mortals there. Killed off some warriors. And then it was time to shoot. So your fulminator shot here into the warriors, and then these 4 ballistas all just shot into warriors. And do you remember how many warriors you killed that turn?
Killed all of them, I think.
Not all of them, but you got 30 of them down. So there were 40 over there, and you killed off 30. And now that side, which I felt pretty good about maintaining that side and maybe even pushing up towards that objective, is my weakest side. And so, yeah. Now I've only got 10 warriors there. This hero's kind of stuck out in the open. He's wondering, where did all my guys go? And so I've got a problem on my hand on this left side. So we don't score any points in this game type until either somebody gets them all or the end of the game. And so it makes scorekeeping pretty easy. In my turn, I just move away from this comet. So I'm just trying to get away from that comet. I keep my warriors screening my old blood over there. And then my Stegodon, he's the one with Cloak of Feathers and Prime War Beast, moves up to take on this big block here. I was really hoping for a big charge to get up and over because he does have good movement. I was trying to get in as close as I could. I mean, he was coming off the back line. If I could have spiked that charge, I could have gotten over the top, but that didn't happen. I was able to go straight into those sequitors though. My Engine of the Gods. Oh, this turn I didn't use my Engine of the Gods and I didn't double fire the Bastildon because I had a juicy target here in these fulminators, which I know I wasn't going to be able to deal with these fulminators any other way than mortals. And so I was going to try the special ability to see what it did. I had all 3 of these lined up on the fulminators. So let's try the Celestial Stampede. Let's see what happens. And I rolled 3 dice and I rolled 1. And so I only got to do 2d3 mortals. And I did 4 mortals to that fulminator. So I did not kill it. It only got him down to 1 mortal or 1 wound left. So that was a little disappointing. I was, you have in your head 3d3 mortals. I'm going to do 9 mortals. I'm going to almost kill both of these guys and then just dink off the other one. No, that didn't quite happen. So did 4 mortals from the battalion ability. Maybe not worth it yet. But I do slam this guy who's got the extra Prime War Beast into the sequitors and the fulminators, and I do some mortals to both of them, which is great. And then I buff him to the roof. I had given him the +1 attacks from the Sacred Asterisms, the constellation. He had Prime War Beast, so that's +2 attacks. And then I spent his command point for another +1 to his attacks. And I think I spent another command point to reroll 1s. So I spent 2 command points. I had like 4 buffs going on him. This guy was going to wreck. And he did, didn't he? Mm-hmm. Yeah. This was awesome because this Stegodon went into those two fulminators and 10 sequitors and killed everything except 1 sequitor. I think he was kept alive maybe from this guy, or maybe I just didn't quite clear him off enough, but the Arcanum can cycle back some wounds onto these guys. So cleared 9 sequitors and 2 fulminators with 1 Stegodon. That's a trade I will take any day of the week. I like that, especially because those guys were tough. I think you were even re-rolling your saves with the sequitors, and so we just got a ton of damage through, and so that was pretty nice. But I'm staring down the barrel of 4 ballistas, and so we know that whoever gets the next turn is going to make the other person hurt. If I can send the Stegodon into those ballistas on the next turn, then that would be awesome. He did save. He did use a command point to save that guy. Why'd you do that?
If he got the turn to hold him up there, so he has to shoot into that guy and not the ballistas.
Yeah, to keep my Stegodon tied there with the shooting. So that was a good play. It was one command point to save one guy, which doesn't, that kind of hurts sometimes, but it was a good play there to keep my Stegodon tied down. Unfortunately, or fortunately for you, I guess, you got the priority roll. We tied, and you went first on the first turn, so you got the priority into turn 2. And you can see there is a Stegodon-shaped hole right here. Those ballistas definitely took care of that Stegodon there.
Mm-hmm.
And you tried to dispel Comet, but it didn't work. That was, I think, how many times did you try to dispel that? 2 times, maybe? Maybe just once or twice. I can't remember, but you never did get that Comet stayed exactly where it was all game, and I was able to avoid it the rest of the game. So that was kind of nice. So maybe next time you might throw it in front of the lines, like a little bit further up, to where it will affect me longer, maybe. You did. So you did bring a Fulminator down into these warriors, just trying to hold me up. I mean, trying to kill some of them, obviously, but trying to hold them up too. You killed off a couple of warriors. I think it was enough for me to lose some more in Battle Shock, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there were 30 there.
And then out of all of those attacks, you got 2 wounds through.
Yeah, I put a whole bunch of attacks back, and I was able to finish off the Fulminator, the hurt Fulminator. The Warriors, I kind of rag on the Warriors a lot, but they do have a lot of attacks, especially when they have over 15 and they're in Coalesced. You're getting 4 attacks from them each. And then this was Battalion. Both of them have Rend. All 4 of those attacks have Rend. And so they're not the highest quality attacks, but, if you're throwing 4 attacks for each model and they have Rend, you're going to get some through. And you're going to do a little bit of damage. And so they end up pulling their weight, I think. I think you were hoping, because you had gotten this Bastildon down, you were hoping to make a big charge over to here, like to this front line, and then attack over the top because he was bracketed, and maybe you could have killed him, but just didn't quite get the charge on it. You did move these guys up further towards to kind of make a push this way if the cards fell right. But otherwise, everybody over here had shot the Stegodon and the rest of those warriors off. So now I only had my one little hero over there. Go back, yeah.
And I didn't move my liberators from the objective. I ran them up into the building.
Okay. Yep. They were running this way to try to work that objective. Since I don't have any kind of teleports or anything, there's no way for me to get back to this objective. So It's pretty much secure. So that's the end of your turn there. On my turn, I kill off the Fulminator, but it took me into shooting, so I couldn't really move my warriors. My monsters were kind of stuck back, and so wasn't able to push forward a lot. Well, now how did I kill that Fulminator?
In shooting or with mortals? Maybe?
Okay, maybe so. I don't remember. But I moved these. I don't know how I moved these warriors. Oh, I retreated them. That was it. I retreated the warriors from.
Then you charged the Stegodon.
Yeah,
I think
I charged the Engine of the God into the Fulminator. Did some mortals that way. I think he only had like 1 wound left when I put all his attacks into him. So I retreated the warriors up, just trying to make a push for that objective on the next turn. If I got the priority, then I would have been able to hold 3 if I could have pushed in and killed enough of those Sequitors. So that was my play. I was able to shoot over here with the Bastildon and double fire it, and I put the Fusel of Conflagration into that one. But I was able to kill off 1 ballista, but I left 1 with 1 wound on it, and that really hurt because it was so close to dying. And they don't bracket or anything, so if you leave them on 1 health, they can still do just as much damage as they did before. So I really wanted to clear off that one. Didn't quite get the roll I needed on the Fusel. I think I actually did roll the D6 mortal wounds, but I rolled low on the output for that one. So So that was my turn. Did some shooting with the Stegodons, and the engine basically healed the entire game. I don't think it ever did anything else.
He never summoned anything.
Yeah, he can't summon without a Slon, but I don't think I ever did any mortals, did I, with it? I think it was just healing the whole game, which wasn't bad because the Basildon was constantly under fire, just by random things or the comets or stuff like that, and so I was able to keep that Basildon topped off of that 1-up save pretty much the whole game. So going in, I used up all my CP. Going into the next turn, you won priority again, so this is turn 3, and now you're pushing forward. Do you remember what you killed over here?
I killed the Source Old Blood.
Yeah, killed the Source Old Blood.
Wait, no. I think, like, when I charged in, or it might have been you who charged in, and you killed the Ballista, but then I brought him back on 1 wound.
Oh, that's right. So you had charged the Old Blood with this hero here, and I piled in around and got to your Ballista and almost killed him, but couldn't quite bring him down again. I think you had healed him up with the spell. So I think that's what you used your spell on, was to heal that Ballista. And so you had healed him up in that turn. He brought his lone Sequitur over here to just kind of block this avenue of approach for the Bastildon, because I needed to push something over onto this left side to be able to make a play on that other objective. And your Sequiturs came down here, and you gave them a +1 to their hits. And I think did you re-roll their hits maybe on that one too, instead of re-roll saves? And so they absolutely punished those warriors. You killed off a ton of those warriors. I think I even lost more in Battle Shock because I didn't have any command points. So I lost some more in Battle Shock. So those warriors, basically all my bodies are gone at that point. So into my turn, these Stegodons just they feasted on Sequiturs, didn't they? And so I brought this Stegodon in, and he was the named one, so he had Prime War Beast. I did give him the constellation to give him another +1 to his attacks, and I think I spent my only command point, maybe, I don't remember, on him to give him more attacks. So they can get so pumped up and do a ton of damage. And he put a lot of attacks into those Sequiturs and was able to kill all of them except one. Left 1 wound on him. We had a couple of warriors left, which he put. I think he put the Sequitur's attack into, killed off maybe another warrior or two. And now we've cleared off a lot of bodies on this match, and we've got Gardus Steel Soul up here, and we've got the Star Warden about to meet in an epic clash. So I was able to shoot some off over here. I retreated my Old Blood, who had 1 health left. And I was doing that just to try to do some mortals and mortal wound off some stuff. And I think I was able to, the Fusel, I can't remember if it hit another ballista or not. The Basildon was able to finish off the other ballista, though. And so I'm feeling pretty good. I've got to move, though. I've got to be able to make a move onto this objective in the next 2 turns. So that was the end of turn 3. Going into turn 4, of course, you win the priority roll. I just cannot win one this game. And so in your turn, what was your thinking on this turn?
My thinking was to run my Arcanum all the way to that objective over there.
Yeah.
And then move my Ballista and Ordinator back to score the objective still, and then put the Liberators up there to hold that one.
And why were they all the way at the back?
So you couldn't really shoot me.
Yeah, so he's just positioning to hold 3 objectives at the end of the game. And I think at this point you saw that you weren't going to kill the rest of my stuff off, but I have the problem of getting onto these objectives.
I think I retreated that guy.
Yeah, you retreated this Sequitur out of combat just to create a roadblock for me. This guy over here was heading this way, and just to force me to have to confront him. So good strategic play over there. But still, the Ballista couldn't shoot anything because it's behind this building. But it kind of ran back onto that objective to just score models. because I think my plan might have been to just double run my next 2 turns over to that objective if I could, and push that guy up that way, push the Bastildon that way. Was going to be my plan. So he positions to try to hold out as best he can. And into my turn, I charge my engine into this guy. I heal again on this engine instead of doing mortals. I really wanted to do some mortals.
I think you did that. You did that twice because you wanted to. Wait, no,
I think that may be the next turn. Yeah. I was able to clear off that that sequitur here. I moved my warrior, the last remaining warrior, onto the objective, and my Star Warden attacked his Lord Arcanum. He had moved Gardus back at the back just to kind of hold him back there so he couldn't be attacked in the same turn. And then I really needed this Bastildon to kill off these Liberators because there's only 2 turns left, and I know I'm going to have to run this Bastildon on the next turn. And so this turn I used my only command point to double fire the Bastildon, and I was not able to clear off those Liberators. That's 18 shots doing 2 damage each, and those Liberators just would not die. So I left the Liberators with 1 remaining, or it may have been the engine. That may have been the engine that got them on the next one. But this combat over here, this Stegodon was not able to kill off Arcanum. He's decently tough, but he was able to make a couple saves. He may have only had like 1 wound left by the end of this combat. My warrior here, I was keeping out of combat so I could keep an extra body on the objective. But because I made a terrible charge and I couldn't pile in far enough to actually get on the objective, just from how it all ended up. And so that was a shame there that I couldn't quite get in. Into that turn, we left 3 Liberators alive. I really needed to kill them off, but it's not all hopeless. I still have the Engine of God on the next turn that I could fire into them if I could get some mortals. On the roll-off, I finally win one. If I hadn't won this one, I don't think there would have been a way for me to win it. And so I have to run my Bastildon because I have to get a model on that objective.
I think you shot him once. You fired off the engine twice, but got heals on both of them.
Yeah, I got within 24 of that Liberator, and all I needed to roll was the mortals at least once. And I had 2 tries at it, and I didn't get either one of them. So I needed to roll a 9 or higher on 2 dice to get those mortals, and I probably would have been able to kill them off and get that objective. Unfortunately, that didn't work. I did a couple heals, which I didn't really need, and that was basically the end of the game. We had some combat to do up here. I was able to pile in this way and get on the objective before I actually killed the Arcanum. But now it's going into his turn. I'm also trying to spread that warrior out as much as possible because Gardus is going to come in. And so I felt like I was playing for a tie at that point to see if we could hold on the next turn. But Axton actually had a pretty good shot here. And that in his turn, let's go back and look at this map right here. He could move these guys up 3 inches. What was their plan?
To try to shoot the Stegodon?
Yeah, he could end within 18 of that Stegodon. And the Stegodon had 9 wounds left. And Coalesce doesn't help against those ballistas because they're only 1 damage. They're high rend. And so they can I mean, it's doable to do 9 damage. But also, Gardus Steel Soul has a shooting attack. Do you remember what his shooting attack is?
6 shots on 4s and then D3.
Yeah, it's no, it's just 1 mortal.
Oh, 1 mortal.
But it's D6 attacks, and then on a 4-up, it's just a mortal. And so the plan, do you remember what the plan was?
To get him to move up and split his attacks.
Yeah, so if you could have killed this guy with the ballista, then Gardus would have just easily killed that warrior, and you would have won the game, right? Unfortunately, as it was, the ballista disappointed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the ballista is going to fire. So we've got Gardus moved up. He's kind of in the middle, depending on where he needs to go. He'll have a decently easy charge. There's that lone liberator. Just a sad picture. I don't know why I included that one. Trash that one. So the ballista is shooting on 5s, gets +2. So all you needed to roll was 3s, and you rolled 3 1s. Ouch. So did not do enough damage to him. So now Gardus is going to come in, and you rolled a 6 on your D6 shots. And so we sat there kind of debating how many to put on which one, right? Because with the ballista just whiffing hard, Gardus needed to do as much damage as he could. And so we put 3 onto each of them. And all you got to do is roll 1 4 on 3 dice to kill that warrior. And it just didn't happen. Sometimes the dice fail you, don't they? That's part of the game. So the warrior was going to survive, which means I would have held on to the objective, and no matter what happened now, it was going to be a tie game, whichever way he went. So we went for the epic melee here, Gardus Steel Soul versus the Star Warden, and they didn't kill each other. Gardus came in and almost cleaned him up, but the Star Warden was at a 3-up save versus him. Gardus has some decent attacks, but not the best. In fact, because he only had 1 wound left, if I had been able to kill Gardus on a 2-up would have gotten to attack again and probably would have killed the Star Warden. It would have been a moral victory, but unfortunately the Stegodon, once it's bracketed down to its very bottom bracket, is not very good. It still has those horn attacks, which can do some damage, but when you're bracketed, they're just down to 1 damage each. And then you don't get near as many stomps. You only get 1 stomp. And so the output is just terrible when they're bracketed. And so I only did a couple wounds to Gardus. And that's how the game ended. A tie game. We both held 2 objectives. And so that ends up being a tie game, a draw. I think there was only about 10 models left on the table. I still had the 3 big monsters from the battalion, just barely. I almost lost one. So they had been pulling their weight, but I just couldn't quite get over to the objectives and take out that Liberator. You just couldn't quite get the rolls and kill that warrior. So we had a couple dice betray us going both directions, but overall it was a fun game. Mm-hmm. Especially seeing Stormcast hold their own against the new battalion. I was taking a double battalion list, which I had a lot of fun with. It had no magic to it. I kind of wish it had some of that. Any takeaways from this list that you would like to change differently maybe next time?
Maybe drop a unit of fulminators.
Okay.
And it was like something else to get prime in.
Okay.
So
yeah. The comet. You could drop the comet. I mean, it did some at the beginning, but a little bit unreliable when you don't have any pluses to cast in the list.
So if I brought prime,
then
I could have brought him down on over there.
Yeah, on which side? The top right side?
Mm-hmm.
To help out? Yeah.
And I could have killed that guy.
Yeah.
And I could have charged Gardus into the
warrior?
The warrior.
Plus prime is like your favorite model, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's something to that. Yeah. Yeah, the Fulminators didn't do as much this game as they normally do. Normally they're pretty good against Seraphon because I have a lot of shooting, and those guys are really hard to move against shooting. And so they didn't really perform to their best ability this turn. I think maybe another wizard might help, so you could unbind the comet and cast it every turn, because you only had one wizard with one cast, and so we couldn't ever get that comet back off the board and cast again. Let's see, what do I think about the battalion? So my battalion, it only gave me 4 mortals onto the fulminator, so not really great there, but it lowered my drops, which means I made him go first. Now that lost me 30 warriors, but it it meant that he had to place all his stuff down, and then I still had a chance to counter attack with all my stuff into his position. So I would probably rather lose 30 warriors than a bunch of my monsters, which is usually what happens against Astral Templars. So not too bad. It did lower my drops, got me that extra Prime War Beast, which is always good. I mean, the Stegodons in this list did amazing. They one-shotted 10 Sequitors each time they went into them. And Sequitors they're not the hardest thing to remove in the game, but they're not the easiest thing. I mean, they're re-rolling saves, and so they can be pretty nasty to get rid of. They're 2 wounds each with Arcanum nearby. They're recycling one of those wounds each turn, and so they can be hard. So I was pretty happy with that. I did not have any command point generation, so that is a tough thing. I do start with 2. I get an extra one in turn 1, so I had 3 to start with, and so that helped me in those middle rounds, kind of use them as I needed them. But late in the game, I needed some command points to really send some buffs, and just didn't have them available. So I might try to find a way to get some command point generation in that. But I did like having 3 drops. Seraphon does, right now in our book, we do not have low drop army. And this new battalion in Thunder Lizards has some interesting ways to get those low drops. So I think I'm going to keep playing around with it for a little bit. But good game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Brought the Astral Templars to a draw, which they're my nemesis right now, especially against Axton. He likes to beat my monster. So I'm happy with that. All right, guys. Y'all have a good one, and we'll see you on the next one.